Jipondo Jugati, Chidani, Tanda for the Moon June again. Kuji to have a cigarette. The Rana powers. Rana Nipe, Kuji to be a never do. Ishichugu to be a niba. One Lungu to be a niba. One Yugu to be a niba. And that Ishichugu to be a niba, Jen some of the party year. Ishichugu to be a niba, do me the Jeta. Around the same city, Jimmy Rajing Jundu Mindu. Tima the Lubura Rendo Mindu. They give it some time. Tea and Tima Luburain. Yeah, Tima Simgi Rajin and Majubache. Ah, Tima Payagi, Hashichiaina, Munche Sangitu Lamyam Solene, Kushitubare. Taganajin Jisu Rangasim Sidi Zetela, Timi Luburu, Tima Lubura in Bada. Tima Simgi Rajin and Majubata. Jana is good to be a Niva Yungina. Did them tongue when you could be a Niva Chariore. And you don't go to be a Niva. Should choke to get Niva Yungua. Those Chenita, Kuji to be a runner, ruin by Hawaii, Yamin jail, to should
be So what we mentioned before, was the general sort of ways of attaining four Buddha natures and what they are and how they are. But the more important is sort of apply this information on yourself. Whether these are something that can be achievable or not through your practice, and for that, you need to investigate whether the all negative mentalities or delusions or ignorance are something that we can separate from ourselves or not, and if it is separable, what are the method and means, and these are the method that that were adopted before by enlightened beings in the past, and therefore they attained. So when you look at the four bodies of Buddha nature, Buddha, nature, body, wisdom, complete enjoyment body, and emanation body. For example, looking at a wisdom body. So if you have ability to achieve this wisdom body, then probably you can say that you have a potential or ability to achieve remaining three too.
Other Dini sometime Daje, any wrong utilizar to the Gachimores. Tangalemido. Sangi Kala. Tanting into Tangating into Namjajetes. Tanting into Sangi Kayete and Sangi Rangabatatu, moving into let Timachin, Kellen the room, Neo one. Karazana, Sangi Chusumade, Dujikanda Sambal. Dulja ni Muni. Da killing Kazajila, Nika, Tate Namado, Pagidilla, Lula, da meo the Lula Masha Insa, Chandendi, Dion Dosme, Pumbung and Kuru, Kuru up on the Kazakos, Sunguchumba, Chandendi. Jendem Bajis, Tugoya Insa, Jen Lola Sabat. Teachum the Kumbata to Marwa. King Dugala, did the Tindaboju Mambo, or Lotambo Chazan Chagware. Barbata Tamanila, Tangini, Tang, Tantan do Sidugala, Umba Singile Jenny. We need to Maimba, Umba Singile Jenny. Masum Kame Song the Dojila, a Tantan do. We need to Demba. 루데 툼바 점데네 공바 타도 인데니 타도데 tumta kanda kaina lute di lula 점데네 공바 타도도 켈린 로야데 네딩이 도 시오 어다 도스치니 장장이 도 장에든 도스고다 테 군소 덴방 원센 된지 또 도르치네 템벤도데 장등이 도시 다디 치니 라도시야고 전난데 망게든 된지 도르치 템벤도데 네딩이 도 이미지 오늘의 시베 걸로 땅보 장등이 도다 레지 저거 다부도 장등 저래 parvata thamangila tangi yobashi tosi oda duschine
Last paragraph on page 296. With respect to the word of Buddha, the presentation of definitive sutras and sutras requiring interpretation is made. We mentioned this before in other schools too about Buddha's teaching being kind of categorized into two. One is definitive, and another is interpretative. That one needs the interpretation, and sutra requiring interpretation. Refers to the teachings that is sort of indispensable at that time for specific disciples. So the example, it will come as mentioned later in the same text, the first turning of the wheel of Dharma. In that Buddha, two practitioners or followers who accept the self or person. To them, Buddha taught that 5 aggregates are the burden, and the courier is the self or person. So he presented as if self exists or person exists, and because that is required for that person at kind of immediate, because he believed and he hold on to that kind of concept, and so Buddha need to kind of taught according to the level of his understanding, and eventually kind of leading him up to a higher understanding. So therefore, the whole from the 3 turning of the wheel of Dharma, the first turning of the wheel of Dharma is considered as the his teaching requiring interpretation, while the second and the third turning of the wheel of Dharma consist of both. One which is definitive, one which is also requiring interpretation. And definitive sutra is the ultimate. So here, when we talk about in the teaching to the followers that self exists, there is a self, a person. That is, Buddha's view, but it is not ultimate Buddha's view. He taught that, and it is his teaching, but that is not his ultimate, or not definitive. So the definitive and interpretative, 2 kinds of sutras of teachings, and so the definitive sutras, it doesn't matter what school of thoughts it belongs to, but it literally means what it is saying, and it doesn't need any kind of interpretation. So continue with the reading. 4 sutras requiring interpretation are those that teach within taking conventional truths as the main object of their explicit teaching, and definitive sutras are those that teach within taking ultimate truths as the main object of their explicit teaching. With respect to the wheels of doctrine, as explained in the Sutra Unraveling the Thought, the first wheel requires interpretation. The last 2 wheels are both said to have 2 types, definitive and requiring interpretation.
다 니번 드리지 보마라기 빌루라 지람 데부 숨레 라르타 Tambulundi chidin dojing rari ke milimba mato ji namja pachibadang matan raos. Ta najujubu umarangi bi chidin degyo mare. Ani teganla rari kelingore. Digita chidin side yuli yunji ganji. Agi. Hagini yobe zorishita degyo. Pagida to senjan bada tumbi senjan bada tumba inza chiten killing go mare ota ti mado ne rare thile mar te mado ji namje jimba kanga na ju bu mara ju bati bachi kan re se so ta ti ndigala chiden dang rari chiden 자와야데 가래 터두기 삼당사 가봐 두고 와래 시디가라 니시기 율 흑인이 여바 나와 담기 지린 자 두마르 와티다 선자멜룰라 나저주고 뭐라기 빌로라 니 율롱 보선지 마보선지 거기는 이거보다 난게 어려. 이 ਸਮझ 마라와. 시디갈라 하기 바 가서 버다. 나는 차트자 많이 봐. 라 코랑기 제 가래나 제 코랑오니 거기니 tumdebe teji kala ani 거기 두바데 바자라 좀 바자 세톱 선리지 텐들라 되바메 봐 그러나 이긴 초바 좀 되는 길라 아 치데스 바나 장에는 이 가로 시된 가디가라 또바 이실라드는 가수 또메원실라드는 시된 가수 용도 또바 이실 또메원실라 가용디가라 간디스 가거라서 내가라 낭수 파기도 좀 말이지 낭 바차 세톱리 중어도 조르서 두스 가요 어때 인디가라 문에 हरतुते दुर्गिन रोथाते आवश्यक वय एचमु यसरे दुर्गि रोथा सादुल जेजुल अनि टिगी जेजुलते या अनि दुसे केन्दी कोबु करसोरे जु राबेंगोला फारोया एजुजी 시기에나 되니 시든도 두 마두 세야기 상다다데 지코기 용기였어요. 그때 이거라 둘긴도 다데 남비존나네 가래네 엄벅군디 방 엄번제나 챙겨야 마 아니 텐디 이거라다 디디디 인상 사이언스 비 근데 제바지티 갈라 tumbo mambo 연구도 있었다 인상 겸거름 지도시까지는 mam보지 가면나 남겨라 겸거름 지다 아니 주인진바다 프랑스 오니 이니 뭐인자 강가 같이 이어가도 가기네 지디갈라 시 뭐보고 버기디 튀용디갈라 단 비기 견지리 낭 셰베당이 또바 이시당이 거기 자와제 당하다 제루데 낭베 도서마이바 대나네 상하기 중나라 대상 타타 셰바타라게 남이도 셰니까 아니 science was very physical. Yarm should over here. Chana Napi Jungilla, Halibchanga, Yunin Jitana, E. Chajo Jay Yumi, Susi Semla in a Rata Yumi, Tending Yunga. The activity only Mandu Tunda Kanda Kan Luina, Lu Dilla, any chick. Narin de Mugubi Gizen Karnari and a children de Mugubi Gizen Children de Gizen Karto. What the Tisu Chetana? Any Tundi Shepherd Gang, Tawa, so to passing the Tawa and Chiloro. Tawa Tarata, the Sokonga she was the Misu Kitchen body. The Suji, Tenindu Sini, Samotang, Tani, it's a Maiba, Samotang Yaniambo, to Stewart. Kitchen what a day in the gala? The Dijubu Marangiba, the Najajubu Marangibai. She didn't doing in the Uma Rangiba Kajila, she didn't doing in the she didn't do Rari Kimelimba, the Dijubu Marangiba, Rari Kilinji, she didn't Kimiling in the Najajubu Marangiba, Jinamja Tezamadota, I just Dagore, in Dagore. Page 297, Tenets of the Sutra Autonomy Middle Way School. So the Autonomy Middle Way School, as you know, itself is sort of categorized into two: Yogic Autonomy Middle Way School and Sutra Autonomy Middle Way School. So the next is the Sutra Autonomy Middle Way School. Assertions on the basis. Except that this system asserts external objects and does not assert self-cognizing consciousness. So the presentation of the basis mostly resembles that of the Yogic Autonomy Middle Way School. So except this system asserts external object. So the previous Yogic Autonomy School doesn't assert external object. But there does, assert self-cognizing consciousness. So here you can see kind of, the difference between these two sub-school of Autonomy Middle Way School. And so external object or external phenomena, we mentioned, that this before the existing of phenomena out there independently, or there is a gap or distance between a subject and object, and the understanding or appearance that phenomena exist out there by itself. So what is the kind of the ultimate concept behind this existence of external phenomena? It is not simply saying that when we look out, there is for example, the target object is out there. Maybe blue things or object. It is not simply saying that things is out there, totally separate from your consciousness. It is more than that. Of course, that we know that things exist out there, different from but. What it is saying is that when we, when it says external object, object out there exists, kind of, from its own side, substantially, from its own entity, having its own kind of independent entity, and that it doesn't rely upon mental imprints of the subject or the perceiver, or that that object exists out there without relying upon causes and factors and conditions, that it exists out there independently by itself, self-sufficiently. So when we look at the other texts like
Tangye is the Tibetan word, definitive numbers. I don't know it's the exact translation or not, but that's the literal, So in that text, it used the different means to negate the existence of external object, and sort of, in relating to the conceptual mind, in relating to the non-conceptual senses, the different kind of organ senses and the mind itself. In relating to these two, the text kind of sort of explains or proves that external object doesn't exist, or it negates. So the main reason in the text, it says that the external objects by nature, we see through, we mentioned this before, kind of awakening of our mental imprints, So here, it seems that we know better about the nature of the external phenomena if we know more about, subatomic nature of particles, how they exist out there, and what are the potentials of the different, subatomic particles, and how are they kind of formed or accumulated. We mentioned this before, kind of, 8 entities, or combining together to form, external object. So it looks like the more you understand, the better understanding you have of these kind of, subatomic nature of the particles or object, the more you will be able to understand this, the external phenomena, sort of, relating to the consciousness and mind. So when you look in the Buddhist understanding, the two main texts that deals with, external phenomena is the treatise of knowledge, and then the treatise of the compendium of knowledge and the treatise of knowledge. Two texts, and there are lots of understanding that is similar that we find between Buddhist understanding of the external objects or world and the scientific understanding, and nowadays it's becoming more kind of obvious because of the His Holiness special initiative and interest, along with his scholars like His Holiness translator, so but when we look at the mind or the consciousness world, then we find, of course, more in Buddhist sutras, and still it gets much subtler in tantric practices. The different levels or stages of consciousness and mind. So many kind of scientists, they kind of come to Buddhist scholars like Dalai Lama, kind of to learn or study or for discussion. And so having said all this, what we know is that if you study Buddhist philosophy, there are lots of things that you can study, and many of these things that you study in Buddhism are something that is reliable, that's worth of studying, and that can, prove through kind of evidence or analysis, and that can have a strong kind of conviction within yourself. So, and coming back to the text, the only differences between this sutra autonomy and Yogic Autonomy Middle School, as said here, assertion, external objects and self-cognizing consciousness. So these are the things that that are important when you study philosophy or concepts of different schools of thoughts. And when we study different philosophies, what we are studying is their way of thinking, or philosophy, or thought process. So for that, it is good to know, what is external objects, and what does this mean to different school of thoughts, and why some school interpret this way, and why other school interpret in a different way, and why they don't assert. So that way, kind of, it's helpful, when you do comparative study of different school of thoughts. This way, it will help us to understand, the philosophy of different school of thoughts, and it is important to kind of, follow this kind of learning process.
Nibalam yin namja lamgi kebarla nyara ringela chugi tame toba me ba je jings zunzu zejing towa toba ishi kemilen la chirul tengi toba shirul tu minda to se sungwa talamgi kebarde te nyara ringela chugi tame toba me ba je jings digala tagi najar chubi umara gibe ta senzambe juni she chabe ta ndode gondel ni chebe sena dugo dodo gondelni chebe zungzi zejingi tongwadang zuzun tobe zejiranga tingi tubo towani chugi dame raba keling yoga tanda di dodo gondel ngedingi tole shegi omari tartuna marje inzang dodo gondel ke malandi gala nyera ringela hagi dodo gondel chebe shirani chugi dame le keling yoga dodo jibum nacho jibum doze ji bumara gibe te khai malan gala nyara ringale chugi dame to bamme ba feeling go gije tate tuwa tu sare pra pagide di indi gala nyara ringale chugi dame ta chugi dame de dindu gi tonga chi pure ti nyara to gu mare singora dembar to ba demete nyara la chugi dame to bamme ba je go gije te tere ta teni zunzi zejing towa tobe ishi kemilen la digala dodo gondel kha ke malen digala te ko kelengwa jiten yo marwa dodo gondel she chape zunzi zejing towa toba kelengwa jiten chirul tenjing toba shiru tu mindo to ta tagi zunzi tobe jiren rangi tingi tuba zimbade shiru de wan to najuju maragi bilula tanadi lala ti shitu dugu maris tadi shitu dem 나절주부 말하기비 가르제바래 senzambe rajung o senzambe telam babsade kollo thama lecture chogorse doje gondel se luichi dani yore chengi gondel de doje gondel de aso senzambe rajung chade najarjubu umaragi ye kheling gore tichima chijin khelembe tandu chugi dame tela thara ni chede dembar matu bade chedan de demete khele thani tu ransin tu ba kheling go ota tendi gi khebra maboji khele bi guzin chene ani chirutunji to ba shidu kheling go tan lode jubu mara gi te khemalan dugala chirutunji to ba shidu kheling go goden khora yo marda kheling go guzin khora yo mar ko lode gondel ngedun dugo mara Tagide, Jodo Gondel da, Holo Parpanila, Tangi in Jesu. Anadile Yomat, or the teaching.
Page 298, assertions on the paths. With respect to differences regarding the paths, the Sutra Autonomy Middle Way School asserts that those firm in the lineages of hearers and of solitary realizers do not realize the selflessness of phenomena. Also, they do not assert a wisdom that realizes that subject and object are empty of being different substantial entities. And they do not assert that a conceptual consciousness apprehending external objects is an obstruction to omniscience. So here, when you compare this assertion to the yogic autonomy middle way school, this is Sutra autonomy middle way school. So you can see that differences, and the main differences comes from the because as we said before, yogic autonomy middle way school, they are called yogic autonomy middle way school because they philosophy, especially the basis, has a strong similarity with the mind only school. So so the yogic autonomy school basically kind of follows the mind only schools philosophy. And when you look at the mind only schools philosophy, their philosophy from the three turning of the wheel of Dharma, it kind of comes from the third turning of the wheel of Dharma. And within the third turning of the wheel of Dharma, the text is the Sutra Unraveling Thoughts. I think that's the translation, and it has 10 chapters. So that is the main, the origin or sources of the mind-only school's, philosophy. And so the yogic autonomy school basically kind of follows all those philosophy, just like the mind-only school does. Here, the Sutra autonomy middle way school, these specific kind of concept and thoughts. They considered Sutra Unraveling Thought as a sutra requiring interpretation. So we mentioned before, definitive and interpretative. So Sutra school here kind of says that Sutra Unraveling Thought is the sutra that requires interpretation. It doesn't mean literally what Buddha says. So therefore, they don't need to kind of Sutra autonomy school doesn't need to follow exactly the same as the yogic autonomy middle way school does, because they have a different kind of they don't have the same kind of origin or the sources of the philosophy or the basis of the philosophy.
Sumba divi nabjala nirangi panchen dibata toje damela thara me base. Tati mun tori mindawa meetings. Uniji nabja nigala chetos sunga. Tati nirangi ge panchen diba. Tati rangala shribraba panchen toji gawa. Tandila zunzi zejing tonga zuchiltun tenjin the tegeti. Ku dodo gondel ke malembe inza isu I shiti the killingo goden yomarwa ke malindi gala ta tori mida yomare tori ji chabare ani panchen dibala kebre yomare nyara la ne be nindu da agel nila june gi ginamja nigal tigre nige chechi hije ringi nam dimi rinjunu pawa jete esi ta hije ringi ta nyara lamla majuje tambo nini tijin lalba jugundi do ani nyumu mi dibada shijin dibani rinjin chigiri ati nga manji kama mombo jore sa tambo ni sa gebe bardola mata sadin galo nyumu mi dibapa sa geba ni nyumu dibapa hansani sa geba ni ani shijin dibapa yang goto gare sa geba tabete nyumu mi diba zebapa togon barwali shito tadi kunde Shandara Kitagi Age Togambarwa Umanawi Dewa wada tini kuntu de tusa de teres sungi sare onjang thangyu waltar nyundi mazo bado shiri pang gomi mizombar jeba mino os ya thangyu aina nyundi mapha bado shiri pang go chamgu marase di dini shegi orde go mat tum mizomba yo mare ya zi jigi nyundi pangi shiri pang go chamgu arde sungi sare imida ikabarte samje mato ji namja jilam desungi namja phalche najajubu maragi bada tuno mepa ransen yekyang dembra mizjebe ragyu mawe tute namye kuri razo fada lepra zubaye rangi kinde nungi zujiri je parka gisi zuba ransen seyde taton zane nigi yobachi nisi dugura epha umarang najajubu maragi bada najajubu maragi bada nigi ransen seyde dugura dembra matunya ransen tukse ransen seyde gala taton zane nigi yobachi dugura hagi niga kebari omar niga nige dugura
the target is get on the decision.
On decision ransen seyde jidan da nige dugura
Assertions on the fruits of the paths. The obstructions that hearers and solitary realizers abundant and the selflessness that they realize do not differ in coarseness or subtlety. Hence, there is no difference in their type of realization. The Sutra autonomous make a presentation of the 8 approaches and abiders for both hearers and solitary realizers. So again, the obstruction that hearers and solitary realizers abundant and selflessness that they realize do not differ in coarseness or subtlety. It also kind of refers back to that they don't consider or interpret assert sutra unraveling thought as definitive sutra or Buddha. They assert that as interpretative. So they don't kind of assert wisdom obscuration as the same as the previous school, the other school, autonomous school. The Sutra autonomous make a presentation of the 8 approaches and abiders for both hearers and solitary realizers. They assert that those firm in the great vehicle lineage. So firm in the great vehicle lineage, we mentioned this before. The family lineage, those who from the very beginning kind of, awaken as great vehicle practitioners, not going through, lesser vehicles. Those firm in the great vehicle lineage abandon the true obstructions serially. For Bhava Vivek explains in his Blaze of Reasoning that at the time of achieving the 8th ground, the obstruction to liberation are exhaustively abundant. However, unlike the consequentialists, they do not assert that one begins to abandon the obstructions to omniscience only when the obstruction to liberation have all been removed. So, explain in his Blaze of Reasoning, at the achieving of the 8th ground, the obstruction to liberation are exhaustively abundant. So we mentioned before, the ground or bhumi from 1st to 7 are called impure bhumi, and then from 8, to 9, 10, 8, 9, 10 are pure bhumi. So from 1st to 7 bhumi, the practitioner mainly involved in eliminating from the two obscuration, the first obscuration, delusive or obscuration to liberation, and then from 8th ground, they start abandoning the wisdom obscuration, or the second obscuration, or the obscuration to enlightenment. So, as said here, however, unlike the consequentialists, they assert that these two obscuration, the way practitioner eliminate these two is in a such way that they cannot eliminate they cannot start the elimination of second obscuration unless they completely finish the elimination of first obscuration. So that is the how consequentialists assert. So to quote from the root tenet text, in that text it says that because this is the philosophy of the middle way consequence school, so they strongly kind of emphasize or assert that without eliminating delusive obscuration, one won't eliminate or start eliminating wisdom obscuration or the second obscuration. So according to the consequentialist, first practitioner must eliminate the first obscuration totally and then start eliminating the second. But here, it says, however, unlike the consequentialists, they do not assert that one begins to abandon the obstruction to omniscience only. But here, this school, says that a practitioner does start eliminating the second obscuration even during the stage of first, obscuration. So that's the difference that they assert here. Page 299. Except for only these differences, the Sutra Autonomy Middle Way School's presentation on the basis, paths, and fruits mostly accords with that of the Yogic Autonomy Middle Way School. So one thing that we mentioned before, the existence by way of their own character, although this, both autonomy school says that the phenomena or things doesn't exist independently, but they exist by way of their own character, which so we mentioned this before, by way of their own character. What it means is, if you try to find the meaning of the imputation, it should be findable. So that's the thing that you need to understand the autonomy school's concept. So as I said before, when we study the tenets or school of thoughts, as you go up higher, the meaning or the understanding or philosophy becomes more subtler and subtler. So, yogic autonomy, middle way school, is much gross, and when you go up higher, Sutra autonomy, middle way school, their philosophy or assertion is much more subtler. So when you try to learn and understand this, you need to kind of compare this with the, yogic autonomy middle with tunchi jung karil pongba shawsum. So the things that is not clear in this, section of the text, you need to look back at the yogic autonomy middle way school, because they have a more, as text says, more resemblance. Shouldn't be looking at the middle way consequent schools.
nipa thangyuwe namsha shebala tsingi dashi dusu sumsi. Thangyuwa de dumda yangze, ngone chumden degi ranglu chichoye de, ndi chade yore. Kanchi tuta oma de kanga tawa rapa de sungwe kare na, tawa thatu na thangyuwe tawa koye ke tapshi bata, ome tawa kometi sete kunjin janji bete sungwa. Mazu genza mangpo jino oman mazagala genza thotu gang de lebe kore yamara le zone jinji ne cheta mawe tawa de sebu je hagona dode bashela tawa toyela shita kebare yore le la chadi yore dode be tawa hagona senza bete tele la du sulu chik tharu ru gore ti digala ta thatu na thank you with tawa de ngoni ke chimbu chadi yore ta thank you with tawa thank you ta tunda nane yangse di chadi yore ta tin digala thank you with singi karja rang singi tuba thanya tunya mi jepe ngoni me brahma thank you singi ran singi tuba ta phagini ta tum sala nye sona thank you le gyun ma di ta tum sana nye sona ngobir karsa kota phagini nigyu jiya ina tini chedad tupsong indi gala gajing ngo tubita phagini gaje salna ani chepache indi gala phagini nyemya indi gala yuan de ani yuade ma su nyo tu bo wa penna ngara ju jose zon ji la to re ji je yore thong ye yore ipe chu ta ye yore je pa che yong di gala ta phagini ji jose kangpa de jose re jose khaman jose re jose de de jose re jose gang de jose re je yong di gala jose ti na ra mi do 제상 민다점 고차와다 강같이 투보러 이 뉴가라 군이자지 아랑은 매경 민데 파라라 세수고 다 랑 탄주룰라 랑싱인 투바 랑싱기 투바 랑wen 투바 랑은 둘루는 투바 세데 찌빠 찌냐는 같이 찌빠 찌냐 차거래 이 배 두상 두세 찌빠래 디기디 하기 탱규룰라다 상 가져만 보죠래 테솔레지네 탱규룰라 파 삼단에도 가라 문에 아주 하기니 술람마다 봐 그냥 초도비인데긴지 남기어데 똑바 이시라 데니지 남기어데 낭줄데 나신지 누구미도 맞아 제바지 이안에도 삼다 루 삼다이나 다 낭줄데 매아데 가르치 버려 코 찌를 때네 지둥데 사실 때네 차진지 자야마도 사실 더도 인데긴 사실 유니메서 차진 더도지 차실은 마토비 차진지 요마 민도아 코 찌를 때네 지 자기로 마도 이 코 파기군에 두디나 니 차천리 세리고 수두버지 자고에 진도와 니 차세리 수두버지 자고에 도와 때민도와 수두버지 그랑원이 유연되긴지 잘 라기민도와 이 유전의 제네 랑생이 마도 랑게 생이 좀나 그랑원도 그랑 둘루문도 와 와다 랑게 생이 당이 뒤야 개밀면 원님만 봐 당교의 생이 생이니 다 당교의 생이 사기장 다다 이슈알로 레벨 이슈알라 되게 다 중처에 오마 봐 시고래 어다 직 이반이 지지 당교가 되잖아 당교 당기 저거기로 두자도 되지 봐 깨반도 되는 대다르지 비치 다 당교를 다 덴질라 또스티 캐버려 당교르스니 당아 거바sam기 당교르데 당 당교르데 달로 추스고 철로 따스고나 아니 가르서다 덴지 차거래 이 캐버토스여래 맞아 다다나디 당아 거바sam기 치고 빠져 누바보 치고 양달라 두자도 베지바 게두야 덴디기 아니베 직 니바 용인지 땡유와 세다다 데네장도와 어든 이걸 자샤나 말해
지 파갑 그 시제도 그 로인데
로이 로메
So just to conclude the autonomy school page 299 stanza between sections. So all those who wish to be wise take up this exposition, expressing well without my own fabrication all the distinctions in the tenets of the proponents of own power, who assert that things, though existent by way of their own character, do not truly exist. So you can see here that how they differentiate between phenomena existing by their own character, but they do not exist truly or inherently, intrinsically. So with that, we will move to the final and the highest school of thoughts, middle way consequence school. So the middle way consequence school, as you know, is the highest and the ultimate, thought of Buddha. The presentation of the tenets of the consequentialist is in three parts: definition, etymology, and assertions of tenets. The definition of a consequentialist is a proponent of non-entityness who does not assert that phenomena exist by way of their own character, even conventionally. So, they don't even, assert their own, exist by way of their own character, which is asserted by the previous school, right? We have just seen. So, to middle way consequence school, if phenomena or things exist by way of their own character, or if the meaning of the imputation is findable, then that is totally kind of contradictory to their philosophy. So, to middle way consequence schools, you imputate, you label, but when you try to investigate or find it, it should be unfindable. If it is findable, then that is totally contradictory to their own philosophy. So, if it is findable, then according to middle way school, that means there is no object of negation. There is no need to negate, because it is, you can find it. It's findable, but that is not the case in the middle way consequence school. So, we mentioned this before in the other class. It is that probably the Art Sutra class. We spent quite time in discussing about the middle way consequence schools and the concept of philosophy. So according to this school, phenomena doesn't even exist by way of their own character. So when you try to find the meaning of the imputation, designation, label, whatever that you name, and try to find that name on that specific object, it is not findable. You won't be able to find it. But at the same time, that object exists. Not saying that it doesn't. It exists, and we know from our own experience. For example, the table exists, and we use the table, and we see the table, and we can touch the table. The table is out there, but when you try to find the table on the table itself, where is the table? Is it the top? Is it the side? Is it the leg? And when you take out all its part and break it down into different parts, it's not findable on that object itself, on the table itself. It's not findable. So, therefore, the great scholar Jamyang Sherpa, again in his text, he says that they don't exist. They don't exist from their own side. They simply they don't exist from their own side. They are simply designated by labeling or by conceptual thoughts and conceptual thoughts. So therefore, according to the middle way consequence school, a lack of their own character, lack of independent existence, lack of self-sufficient, lack of intrinsic existence have all same meaning, unlike the autonomous school. And the appearance that we commonly have, that phenomena existing independently out there without relying upon other for its own existence, and we need to investigate that. And when we investigate, according to the middle way consequence school, we will come to the point where we know that there is not object like we label. The table is not there. It's unfindable. So again, then when we say it's unfindable, it is negated. What is meaning behind that? Why there is the object is not findable? Why it is not there? So why it is not there? The answer is because it's interdependent. The way it exists is it doesn't exist by itself, but it exists in such a way that it is dependent upon others. So again, when we look at one particular object, its main different parts are not by themselves independently existing. So if different parts of the one object is independently existing by itself, then again it's tantamount to saying that we found the object, which shouldn't be finding under this school. So if if it is findable, if object exists self-sufficiently, independently by its own self, then it kind of contradicts to middle way consequence school. If the things exist by way of their own character, then according to middle way consequence school, this is same as saying that phenomena exist independently, self-sufficiently, by itself, which is not the case in this school. So the illustrations, continue with the reading. Illustrations of Buddha, Palita, Chantakriti, and Shantideva. Next page, etymology. Why are they called consequentialist? They are called consequentialist, that is, those who use consequences because they assert that an inferring consciousness that realizes the thesis that phenomena do not inherently exist can be generated in the continuum of other parties just by presenting that person with an absurd consequence of their own position, generated in the continuum of other parties just by consequence. So we just said the consequence is not exactly, there's a slight difference between consequence and reasoning. So simply kind of presenting the consequence. Take your cue about some gi galawar.
Thank you, Gongin. Thank you. Ta tenji da thank you nila. Chik thank you de tangbo ko buware. Tangbo ko ne. Wangbo numbu yin thank you korang kola. Tu jato tu buware. Tandang ma de. Thank you de ko yo de kala. Ta shidagi de to ma de ko kyo ra. Teni tenji ko buware. Tena pejana. Thank you sedikala. Da tapa kelen, ta namajibe kelen, chaba kelen, jene midabe chaba kelen, tedi haza jira, da chuji majibe imbata tapa imbe chizide, tanga jiko yondukala, thank you re, da chuji majibe imbata tapa imbe chizide, kola ta, tagi jene midabe chaba kelen, ta namajibe chaba kelen, kelen yondukala, da chuji majibe imbata tapa imbe chizide, 그 왕부 누구 인자 대가는 게 다 다들 미다바레샤 선데 렘상 또 다미다바 또 두고 와 나한테 또 마두고라 아니 나제 미다바 인데 제바 인데 시기 양 달로 주고 줄로 따스고니 딘지 양다 고고 와 인디가라 tangyul 되니 제바 킹인데 신도 왕부 누구 인 미다데 들이지
제나미다 저한테 가서
라타바 켈린 제나미다베 캬바 켈린 따나마치베 캬바 켈린 코르스몽관 정도 거라 엔디치고 질레 땡기고 거
라타바 켈린 제나미다와 켈린
따나마치베 캬바 켈린 따바 이나마치바 인구르지 코르스몽관 정도 지고데나 양다데나 따바 켈린 제나미다바 켈린 따나마치베 켈린 따나마치베 캬바 켈린 오다 딘디 코르스 몽골다 소는디 오와텔라 다제 마치바 임바 따바 임비 치즈 와는디기 오다 렘산 테마타도 텐지도 코 tangyur도 꿰다가다 에니 투자도 지바데 켄다미타바 톤도 거라 따티 또 미뉴긴지라 다제 미타니 치바 임비 치즈야 솔로타스고 탈로 추스고니 텐지 양다고
igne들 가르쳐 다치지 못하대
다제 마제바 임바타 딱바 임비치
알레
그거 추로선이지 여르데 상의 아버지한 학대 펜도 연구리스
so guys this is little confusing but if you think more it will be helpful to understand because he's using language of logic
the namdegi reference
the logic in the valid cognitive kind of cognition so
감각이 유튜브 말했어와 당문에 ngama pejalta nyungwenji girgur mata 인지 시제기 유튜브야 가보라
So this is sort of Geshe-la, I guess he's trying to encourage me. They said, this this can be translated only by translators who also know, the language of debate. Simply having a good knowledge of English won't be able to translate these sort of things. So, but I will try. So, here he kind of. Because the word that we are trying to, I guess, try to understand is the consequence, which it is translated here as the consequence, but generally, when we talk among the translators, we say there is no word exactly translatable. The Tibetan word is tell. So, so as I said, there's a differences between the consequence that is mentioned here and the reasoning, a valid reasoning. There's a slight difference between these two. But the consequence, the another way of saying is basically a reasoning. It's a type of reasoning that you use for your opponent to understand. So consequence is used only, consequence, if you use the reasoning of consequence, only the the opponents with a high intelligence will understand this way of logical statement. Otherwise, people with low intelligence, they don't understand this consequence logical kind of expression or statement. For those, we need to use kind of direct or valid reasoning, which would be much more simpler to understand. So, so the now kind of to break it down for the when there's a debate, there's an opponent, and then there's the person who try to kind of bring up his own statement and try to make opponent kind of logically accept whatever you presented, the logical statement. So when your opponent is somebody who kind of has to have who has this kind of logical understanding that he asserts that the sound is a permanent thing, and he also believes that if something is functional, then it is impermanent. And then he also asserts that if something is permanent, then it is not functioning thing. So for those kind of somebody who asserts this kind of concept, and if you use the consequence that sound is a non-functioning thing because it is permanent. So if you mention this kind of logical expression, immediately the other opponent who is considered here as intelligence will understand very kind of at the first expression of this logical statement. But somebody who is not at the same kind of intelligence won't be able to understand. Then you use kind of just another sequence of logical statement. So to them the expression would be sound is impermanent because it is functioning thing. So sound is impermanent because it is functioning thing. So you kind of the other will understand logically that sound is impermanent. It is a functional thing because if something is functional thing, it should be not permanent. So kind of using the so Geshe said again, kind of if you are not used to the different kind of components of the the logical statement, it might be confusing not to so. But once you have the understanding, it is very helpful in learning a logical statement. So we'll stop here for today. Maybe one question if you have. Yeah.
Not a certain self-depending consciousness. But the Sutra Autonomy School is a higher school than the Yoga Autonomy School.
297, where is?
Bottom.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
It's not a certain self-dependent consciousness.
Uh-huh.
So that means that the Yoga Autonomy School does not assert external objects.
Tanda Disungyo because let me read.
The question is that if Sutra is a higher school than the Yoga Autonomy School, why does it assert external objects?
Chidun Kajun Kelengoresa Kasa the Dodijibe Umar
Gube.
Okay, see the any Dubda Toina on Chidun Kajun Kelengoresa.
Chidun Kelengwade Karzana
Chidun Konanda Simzambeg Chidun Kane and the Parade Chidun Kem Lingoma and the color Nangela or chicken. Tauta Mading at Rostunguser. Chidun Kelem in Bahashil talk hashing to orders at the talk. The Koma hashing to orders.
이 다외근 개발 시대인 켈레마 잠지라 켈렌다 말렌 잠지 말이지. Tawade, Tagi, Najachibu Maragibayina, Kundu the Gondel Killinza, Shijib Layan Kasa, Cheda de la Trani Chido. Najachibu Maragibi Cheda Trani Chigi Koran Mare. Chik Chidin Killayade Pagi Karsa. Yul Zuma yul Tuzete, Nang Shiba Pacha Seltable, to what the killing go, Mark. He came Malin Dugala, thank you at the garage, then killing it, thank you. Thank you, then killing it. In a winter, number two are killing Mari. She didn't kill an Jimmy to come among Ingwe or Mar, thank you, killing it.
So, the answer, I guess, the direct answer would be by asserting the external object, it doesn't mean that it is a lower school. So, if you look at the middleware consequentialist school, the higher school, they does assert the external object, but at the same time, they don't assert lack of inherent existence or lack of true existence. So, simply not asserting external object doesn't make the another way of saying is that this assertion of the external phenomena doesn't make a particular school higher than the another. This is not kind of doesn't. It is not characteristics that make one school higher than another. Simply assertion of the external phenomena. The Sutra autonomy, the autonomy, yogic autonomy middleway school and Sutra autonomy middleway school. The yogic autonomy middleway school, as we said before, they rely upon the Sutra unraveling thoughts, the text, and therefore relying on that, they kind of categorize selflessness of phenomena into subtle and gross. But the Sutra, the yogic autonomy school kind of categorize into two, but the Sutra autonomy middleway school doesn't categorize selflessness into subtle and gross. They don't do that since they don't use or rely upon Sutra unraveling thought, text or scripture. So the point Chidun Kelen, the Motoba Kelen Goma is sick or so.
The Motoba killing over, Chidun killing over. They do killing Mara. Chiril Tundu Motoba killing why Vizin Numa de Karayan. Do they wonder Katula Yoma Yundu, the Duke Denani Jawang Sidigala Kangat Shiba Mananzu Sangigri says he Shiba de Dembartua Mandana Matuna Job me any paying ko Kansa Sindi Jashigo Mari Senama. Indugala Narana Nancy Bichidi Shiba tea Pacha Seltogli tea Wangi Tundegi. Tena Nilam Nalagazu Nilam Tandugala Lampocha Jirova Kanjun the Dam in the Nunchaputa Tangirwa. Tangire the Kurangwini Nilam take up the Tubio the Marwa. Naranzu Lubi Nilamgi Shipi Zishapasondi. This one is Jenny. Shepa ranching in Matuna, Josh Gomar. Indugala Lu de Dodegondeni Su Insa, Dodegonden Kari Suade, Dodijibu Maragipe killing God. Tagana Hinchini, Najajibu Maragipe. This soon the Gala Pagini Garsore. Najuju Mara with the soon of the gala. So, Jawan then to see a della Shepalo. Miss Corsade, Shepa ranching Lishi, the Bertua Marite. Period. Shepa them, the Bertuaina, that these and the Chini there, then to in to Sine, join to then to kill a quateri. Join to then in 군다들 유군다 매 유군다 니샤고래 유군다데 가래래 말한수 가서다 배나 란지도 베지랑 친이 두번 짐바데 가지 최다 차려 최다 선잠벨 룰라이나 최다 타모 나주주 부마라기 빌는 그런 켈리 왕기 최다 라바 차버려 이 그때 켈리 왕기 차버려 마도 그 뭐에 내 수지지네 거기 예 좀 전에 온바 털도 들어베서네 그 말와 이래요 말에 두다 오마 강갈 고마 예 켈링이 누구어 뭐에 내 수디 대가랑 있나 두다 고마 누구야 미도 왔어
The middle way, yogic autonomy middle way school, just like the mind-only school, as said before, the origin or the sources of the philosophy is sutra unraveling thought text. So in that text, what the mind-only school, what they interpret is, if you remember from their school, they categorize all phenomena into three thoroughly established, other-powered, and then imputed phenomena. And from these three, other-powered nature and the thoroughly established phenomena, they consider these two, they interpret these two as having true existence, truly existing. So, and the main kind of point why mind-only school has to interpret that way is because when they talk about other-powered nature, they kind of specifically talks about the consciousness of the mind. So, according to their interpretation, the mind or consciousness has to have, true existing, truly existing nature. So, and therefore, the nature of the mind has to have kind of true existence. And so, otherwise, I or consciousness, according to the mind-only school, they philosophically they have a problem of not able to posit, such kind of, consciousness. Mind-only school's kind of interpretation, when we dream, during a dreaming state, we see all, these images of, the elephant or mountains or all different sort of things. These things doesn't exist reality in the mind. They don't exist from their own side. They are rather just images created by the mind. They don't. Or created by the mind, and they swing the Quran to other land, and the Kunda Shion to the water lady and Milamna would Sheba social.
But Jidama window, since I'm a dog, you say, that the gondel to me, that Tenets 2 hours, since I'm the Quran Wombate, Jisade. Since I'm a tower Nivala, so Milam de so Milam de Dua.
According to what the joke and contest the word.
The Dugala, Senzamek, Deva Najin, Chimachijindan, the Dijibu, Najibu Mara given to Gora, to the Gondel killing Gorwa.
So, I ask Keshila why, how this is connected to your question. So, because that, because to the Jibble, Ninjibble. So, the yogic autonomy middle way school's philosophy is, their assertion is kind of, similar to the mind-only school. So, to understand their philosophy, you need to understand what is kind of the essence or the core concept of the mind-only school's assertion. So, in mind-only schools, they use dream as one of the most, kind of obvious example to understand, the concept of mind-only nature.
Tagi tangi ni jida dode gondel da ani kolo parpani la tangi ni chigri sungdwa. Tangi ni chigri sede ngeding do delan dode gondel le tanda tisu ngeding chunzab yende ke ngeding do de diga. Dode gondel na ta chig sagi dode gondel na la ta yang sagi karsa gore. 즉, 무슨 성이 마땡인 도도도 도건데 이나테 네딩인 도도고 말 땅땡인 도도고 와.
가슴에 보면
도도건델다 콜로 파르바니라 장인이 치그리스 송소다 지금 도도지 보 말하기데. 맞지 보 말하기데. 제가 네등이 도데 무슨 라치진도 켈랭도 도데 네등이 도임 봐요. 무슨 여다 라치진도 켈랭도 데 네등이 돌아가도 와. 네등이도 무슨 라 지진도 켈랭도 단다디 영원 너데 건데나라 군타용 당용도 텐샤겨다 아니베 tezo drachijindu najuju maragi bendugo ro indigalang ending idores.
So, page 297, what we mentioned, the text said, with respect to the wheels of doctrine as explained in the Sutra Unraveling the Thought, the first wheel requires interpretation. The last two wheels are both asserted to have two types, definitive and requiring interpretation. So, Sutra Unraveling Thought, according to the Yogic Autonomy Middle Way School, they considered or they assert Sutra Unraveling Thought as definitive sutra that doesn't need interpretation.
걸로 parpada 타마니라 장인이 여바지던데 지금 또 쓰기도.
로사요.
어디 장인이 여디가라 장등인도 여래 되는 인등인도 여래 수고라. 야다 자신 말해.
I guess I just read, the same thing that I just read. The first wheel requires an interpretation. The last two wheels are both asserted to have two types, definitive and requiring interpretation. The land is circled by snow white mountains. So all happiness and benefits from close near person, silver Satan and Gaza remain until samsara ends. Just as the Bodhisattva Manjushri attain omniscience and Samana Lata Jew, so now I do take this. As all the religious rules of past, present, and future, prayers, dedication, and supreme. So now I do dedicate this.
Thank you.